The murder of Karen Slover occurred on September 27, 1996 in Decatur, Illinois, when Karen Slover, a 23-year-old mother of one, disappeared shortly after leaving her job as an advertising sales representative. 2 days later, authorities discovered Karen's dismembered remains, wrapped in plastic bags, in and near Lake Shelbyville. In 2002, Karen's ex-husband, Michael Slover Jr., his mother Jeanette Slover, and his father Michael Slover Sr. were convicted of Karen Slover's murder, and all three were sentenced to 60 years in prison. The case is notable for being one of the first instances of dog DNA used as evidence in a murder trial. Disappearance and search. At 5 p.m. on September 27, 1996, Karen left her job in the advertising sales department of the Decatur Herald and Review newspaper, with the intent to pick up her son Colton and then shop for a dress at the Hickory Point Mall in Forsyth, Illinois. Later that night, a black Pontiac Bonneville was discovered in central Illinois on westbound I-72 with its engine still running, its headlights on, and the driver's side door open. The car was registered to David Swan, Karen's boyfriend, but contained some of Karen's personal effects including her purse and driver's license. At this time it was theorized that Karen could have been the victim of a carjacking, as investigators did not view her as likely to have voluntarily left the area due to her recently signing with a modeling agency for a job. On October 1, 1996, the remains of an unidentified female body were discovered in Lake Shelbyville, wrapped in plastic bags that were weighed down with concrete blocks. The remains were confirmed to be those of Karen through her dental records, and physical evidence such as a blood droplet and fingerprint were recovered from a bridge that overlooked the lake. Murder investigation. Karen's autopsy revealed that she had been shot 7 times in the head and dismembered using a power saw before being placed into the plastic bags that were sealed using duct tape. Police found several strands of dog hair on the duct tape and remnants of cinders in tall grass. David Swan was an early suspect because of an imperfect alibi. Investigators were also suspicious of several actions that Swan had performed during the initial search for Karen, and because he owned a handgun matching the type that had been used to shoot her. Swan participated with police during the search and was eventually cleared of suspicion after footage from an ATM surveillance video cleared him for the missing 40 minutes of his alibi. Alibis for other suspects such as Michael Jr. and Karen's ex-boyfriend also ruled them out as suspects. A break in the case came in 1998, when police noticed that broken concrete at Miracle Motors, a business owned by Karen's ex-father-in-law Michael Slover Sr., were similar to concrete blocks used to weigh down Karen's body. A forensic geologist was brought in to see if anything on the Slovers' business matched evidence found at the scene of the crime. The geologist found that not only was the concrete consistent with that found at Miracle Motors, but that evidence found in the abandoned car was also likely from the Slovers' business. The task force sifted through dirt at Miracle Motors and eventually discovered a metal rivet that matched Paris Club jeans and a button that matched to a white shirt, both of which Karen had been wearing the day of her murder. Police also reported finding bones at the scene, but these were not introduced to trial and were believed to have been animal meat bones that came from food fed to 2 dogs that Slover used to secure the property. Police then began to suspect that Michael Slover Sr. and his wife Jeanette had committed the murder over custody issues, as Karen had expressed interest in moving away to pursue her modeling career and intended to take her son Colton with her without the father's permission, thus denying him equal parenting rights, while still collecting child support payments. Before arresting the Slovers, the investigators had a veterinary geneticist perform a DNA analysis on the animal hairs found on the duct tape, which was matched to hairs retrieved from an animal brush that had been used on the dogs Slover kept on his business property. The police used this evidence to arrest the Slovers. It was later thrown out due to a court appeal by the Slovers. In January 2000, Michael and Jeanette Slover and their son Michael Slover Jr. were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Michael Sr. and Michael Jr. were each given the additional charge of attempting to conceal a crime. Michael Jr. had been confirmed to be at work, but he had repeatedly called his parents that day, which made him a suspect in concealing the crime. Trial on May 18, 2002, the three Slovers were all found guilty of first-degree murder and were later sentenced to 60 years in prison, with both Michael Jr. and his father receiving an extra 5 years for the charge of concealing a crime. Custody battle. The following year, in August 2003, there were concerns raised over the custody of Karen's son Colton, who had been adopted by Mary Slover, Karen's former sister-in-law. Authorities argued that Mary had been aware of the murder and could have potentially helped in concealing the crime. A judge later ruled that Mary was unfit as an adoptive parent and that she should not retain custody. Mary contested the ruling, which she claimed influenced a caseworker to change her report, which initially contained a recommendation that Colton be returned to Mary. Despite this, Mary Slover officially lost custody of Colton in October 2003. Colton was later raised by his maternal grandparents, Larry and Donna Hearn, of Mount Zion, Illinois. Appeal. The Slovers appealed their murder sentences, stating that media coverage preceding the trial had tainted the potential jury pool and prevented them from receiving a fair trial. Concerns were also raised about other elements such as the animal DNA testing, as well as evidence that the murder could have been committed by one of several alternative suspects. A judge ruled against opening a second trial for the Slovers, stating that he found no evidence of misconduct or prejudice. Illinois Innocence Project. The Illinois Innocence Project expressed interest in the Slovers and conducted an investigation into the case. The group circulated a petition to have the Slovers' case re-examined, as well as examining evidence to find potential proof that the Slovers did not commit Karen's murder. The group requested that the fingerprint found at the Lake Shelbyville Bridge be tested as evidence, but the move was rejected in 2010 by Associate Judge Timothy Stedman, who stated, "Because the latent print is not suitable for the requested testing, there is no potential to produce new evidence materially relevant to the defendant's assertion of actual innocence." Media. The murder and the subsequent investigation have been the focus of several episodes of investigative true crime shows. The case was examined in a 2006 episode of the True TV television series Forensic Files, the 2005 premiere episode of the Discovery Channel series Guilty or Innocent, and the 2010 episode of the investigation Discovery show Cold Blood. The case was also featured in an episode of Medical Detectives. See also List of solved missing persons cases. References. External links. The Karen Slover case, Guilty or Innocent? On IMDb, Concrete Alibi. The Karen Slover case, Forensic Files. On IMDb, Ties That Bind, Cold Blood. On IMDb, Karen's Killers. At Illinois Times.